Hello everyone and welcome to my new Ultimate 2020 1440p gaming PC. As you can see, we have gone with an AMD CPU and a GeForce RTX GPU. We've gone for the RTX 2070 Super, and the CPU we've gone for is the magnificent Ryzen 7 3700X. I don't know why there's there's like a little CPU light on there. Bit weird. It goes out anyway eventually, so that's a bit weird. That was first boot up, what you're looking at here. So we have since upgraded the cooling. We've upgraded to a water cooler. Again, you can see the 2070 MSI Gaming X Trio, and the light's gone out now. I don't know why it went on the first boot, but it's never went back on again. So we've gone for an NVMe SSD. We've got a WD Black 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD. There's the Gaming Trio GPU box, and there's the card looking out nice with its Trio because it's got 3 fans. There you go. There's our motherboards, 3200 megahertz RAM with the 3700X. There's the WD Black NVMe SSD there, and we'll show you with the graphics card in. Now this graphics card is so powerful, it's so heavy, it needs a bracket to keep it in place. Who would have thought that? Right, so the Quake 2 then, the answer is simply no. No, it can't run Quake 2. This is Quake 2 RTX, to be specific, running at 1440p with high global illumination. So this is it was remade by Nvidia Lightspeed Studios. It is more of a ray tracing benchmark, and yeah, it can't hit 60 FPS. You can see here as we fire the bullets, I gotta love the way the light reflects nicely. So it uses path traced rendering here for the reflections, and you can see here next gen techniques here. You can see how the water reflections are really nice. Right here, so this is a ray tracing benchmark. It is the full game. Well, you get access to the full game if you own Quake 2, if you have a Quake 2 WAD. But it's quite a nice looking game, actually. Look at those reflections there. But it just shows you how taxing ray tracing actually is if you can't run Quake 2 well here. But yeah, I love this one. I mean, it was developed by Nvidia Lightspeed Studios as a demo, really, for ray tracing. So it is 1440p. It is, as you can see, running on the Vulkan API. I love the lighting effects from explosions. They're awesome. It is Quake 2, though. I mean, it's still fully Quake 2, just running on a modern API with a modern rendering technique. But it just shows you the taxing nature of ray tracing. I love this part here when you fire the bullet and you see the light of the bullet that you're firing. I think that's pretty incredible. But other than that, this is the hardest game to run that we're going to test out here. Well, yeah, you know, just load into Netflix and, you know, click the episode and there you go. Yeah, runs The Witcher. No problem. See? There you go. I will point out that it did actually cut out and wouldn't record Netflix. So I know you mean The Witcher 3, and again, 1440p, ultra settings. You can play Mr. of Rivia and Ciri, as we're showing gameplay here from Ciri, as adventure, and there you go. We're running a 60 FPS cap here. It can go higher, but I honestly doesn't go that much higher than 60, so I would go with 60. My advice to you is, if you're going to run a 60 FPS cap, don't use the in-game frame rate cap, as it does have improper frame pacing. But you know, if you're go with the Riva Tuner statistics server, as I'm going for here, So again, it just gives you that proper 16.6 millisecond frame pacing. So you can see here, runs okay. You can put Hairworks on if you want. I would set it to Geralt only though. You've got the overhead, as you can see, with the GPU usage around 60%. Turbo's up nicely, 1980 megahertz, quite nice there. Trying to use signs as Siri. Not going well here. Luckily we're overpowered as hell as Siri. So this isn't going well. But yeah, it runs fine. Again, I would go with the cap of 60 FPS. It can't do 120. Not at ultra settings, so you know. We are running a G-Sync monitor as 144 Hz, 1440p monitor. But 60 is fine for Witcher 3. It runs fine. It's not a competitive game anyway.
Look, there's something there.
And now we said about 120 FPS gaming. Devil May Cry 5, 1440p with 120 FPS cap. Yeah, it does pretty well. Gameplay, we should point out that Devil May Cry is most taxing during the cutscenes. So we're showing you the opening cutscene, which is one of the best opening cutscenes to a game this year, or last year, should we say. But yeah, Devil May Cry, as most RE Engine games, Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 7, 1440p, ultra settings, 120 FPS. During gameplay is fine. We'll show you the cutscene because this is the worst case scenario for the game. So as you can see, the cutscenes again are the most taxing part. Gameplay sticks mostly to the 120 FPS. When you do get big bosses on screen, you do get the odd dip here and there, but it never dips below 100 in gameplay. I've never seen it go below that. You can see the cutscenes do get below 100 FPS. Occasionally they get down into the, I think it goes to the 60s. Right, Jedi Fallen Order then, again 1440p, epic settings. Then we're going to show you the transition between planets. Now this game, you really want to install on the fastest available hard drive that you have. We're running this on the NVMe drive, because that's really the biggest limiting factor for this game is the storage. Because again, it streams in data in real time. Mostly you'll see here we're going from one planet to the other, and there is no real loading screens. You can see the frame rate. It can go above 100 FPS. Honestly, I would just go with a 60 FPS cap. Spends most of its time between the 60s and the 70s. It is GPU bound, as you can see here. It really makes a big difference having the, again, the NVMe SSD and the 16-threaded Ryzen 7 CPU. Running this on our old Core i5, we found it severely CPU bottlenecked. And this is a good example of why we bought a Corsair H100i liquid cooler, because you can see that CPU temperature. It does get into the 80s, which you don't really want. We did run this with the stock cooler. It is running under the new BIOS, because under the original BIOS we only got a 4.2 gigahertz overclock on it. It only pushed up to 4.2. It now turbos all the way up to 4.4. But yeah, you can see it sticks mostly between the 70s and the 80s. I would just go with the 60 FPS cap. Again, we're running G-Sync, so we can get away with the variable refresh rate. It does come in from 50 to 144. So as long as we don't dip below 50 FPS, the frame rate, the frame time, we shouldn't get much judder there, because again, the GPU is controlling the monitor's refresh rate. But yeah, Jedi Fallen Order, it is a tough test for a modern system, but yeah, CPU really benefits and the hard drive really benefits. Obviously the GPU is benefiting from the resolution upgrade. The 1070 was maxed out at 1080p, but this is performance is really good here, I would say. I would give it decent. You're not going to get in frame rate in the hundreds maybe if you went to 1080p, but you want that extra visual quality of 1440p here. And again, maxed out epic settings. No dynamic resolution scaling is on. It does have a dynamic resolution scaling. It doesn't have DLSS or anything like that. We'll need to try that out, really. We only had one ray tracing game. We do have Battlefield 5, and I might buy Wolfenstein Youngblood. Yeah, take that. Push it off. That stupid slug thing we pushed off the top. But yeah, it's not a badly optimized game. You can see the CPU temperature touching into the 80s there. That's again, it's running 4.4 gigahertz. It was alright at 4.2. We could have just left 4.2 gigahertz, but you know, you're paying for a 4.4 turbo. So normally we now get around the 40 to 50 degrees. But yeah, so I would honestly go with this as right. So Red Dead Redemption 2 here. I'm gonna call these settings medium. We're gonna go with 1440p once again. It's kind of hard to get a read on Red Dead Redemption settings. I'm calling them medium. But again, 60 FPS. There is a 60 FPS cap in place. You can see the Ryzen 7 CPU here. All cores and threads being utilized here. Red Dead Redemption 2 really loves cores and threads. That's one thing that it really, really loves. But yeah, this game is GPU bound regardless of your resolution. 1440p does push the 2070 Super to its limit. But even if you drop the resolution to 720p, it's still GPU bound. So we get the frame rate maximum, running with maximum frame rates. The footage you're showing is capped because we need to cap it to record it. Otherwise it kind of gets a bit, there's a bit of screen tearing. I mean, so we go through this door on the Core i5, we got a massive stutter there. However, the Ryzen 7 doesn't even drop a frame. Neither the GPU doesn't drop a frame. So if you run the frame rate unlimited, you get a minimum of 59 FPS, a maximum of 93, and an average of 79. So there is a bit of headroom to play around with here at these settings. I like these settings because in-game, with the 60 FPS cap, you don't get any drops. You get a nice smooth. You can see by the frame time there, it is nice and smooth. So we tend to go with the settings. I've went for the Nvidia recommended settings, and I've turned a few of them down because we struggle to get 60 FPS on them. But you have to experiment with Red Dead 2 to really get the best out of it. There's so many settings, far too many to go through in this video. So there you go, an impressive GPU, the 2070 Super. We might do some more looks at this, particularly with ray tracing enabled. Find more ray tracing games. Wolfenstein Youngblood was updated to include ray tracing. Also Battlefield 5, I really can't be bothered downloading it. It's an 84 gig download. And it's not the best game, Battlefield 5. I don't know what happened there with the ground. But anyway, that is all for this video. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.